Hey y'all, so I have been listening to a lot of music lately, and one of the things I've been doing is going through discographies, like entire discographies of artists that I just want to study, or artists that I like, or just want to know more about, and all of that. So this is just something I do for fun just because I'm a singer and I like to listen to music and I like to study voices. In the past, I've done this with Whitney, listening to all of her albums. I've done this. Oh, Toni Braxton. I started, haven't completed yet. Deborah Cox, I was studying her, went through all of her albums. And a few others, but today I'm going to talk about Monica. So this is just my take on Monica's whole discography. I'm just going to review her albums and talk to you guys about my favorite album and why it's my favorite album. It was just fun to just go through her songs. I chose Monica to do first because she was just somebody that I was on at the moment. I decided to go over her music in the first place because I was just, listening to her verses with her and Brandy, and I was just like, wow, like I never really paid Monica much mind. Like there was one album that I'll get to later that stuck out to me that I really, really loved. But other than that, I really just was like, she's cool. I really like her, but I wasn't crazy about going to listen to her music and really dive in on her stuff. I even saw her perform live at the One Music Fest, which was really dope. Like Monica's a great artist and a great vocalist. So let's get into her first album that was released in 1995 called Miss Thang. When she released this album, she was 14 years old. 14 years old, just imagining my mentality at 14 and my voice at 14. Definitely not as developed as hers was. And the content on this album, it's really crazy. The content on this album was extremely mature, I think, for a 14-year-old. It went from love, breaking up, side pieces, getting cheated on. Like, it was just a lot. And I'm just like, hold up. At 14, I didn't even have a first boyfriend at 14. Like, I wasn't even like, how do you emote that and you're 14? I just feel like it was like grown women lyrical content, but she did such a great job emoting it. I feel like that's why it was called Miss Thang. I feel like that's why she really made a wave in music, because she was so young and she was so emotive. It's not an easy thing to do. One thing being an artist, you're singing songs that people write for you, but if you can't like emote that emotion, then you're not really a true artist in a sense. And I feel like she just had it. Like, at that age, she just had it. And that was pretty cool to find that out and go through that album and even go back and listen to some of those tracks and just be like, wow, like her tone was very mature. How she was singing, growling, her runs, it was just like, wow, like you have a grown woman's voice and a teenage body. Crazy. In 1995, Don't Take It Personal was nominated for 2 Billboard Music Awards, one for the Best R&B Urban Clip and one for the Best R&B Artist Clip. So I feel like that song really put her on the map too, just because that's a big award to receive for your first album. And that song, it was really a good song. It had a bop. I feel like this whole album really was the epitome of 90s music. It had such great 90s vibes, like all the way throughout. Just like the bounce in the music and the production, how she was singing, such a 90s vibe. I even heard some like In Vogue influences in the harmonies, and that might have just been like a staple sound back then. The main song that stuck out that reminded me of In Vogue was Angel. And my favorite songs off this album are Tell Me If You Still Care and Before You Walk Out of My Life. I just feel like you're 14 years old and you're talking about somebody walking out of your life. Like, that is wild. Like the passion that she had singing that song at 14 is just wild. It's crazy. And she might have been 13 at the time when she sung that. Who knows? That's my take on that first album. I will tell y'all later which album is my favorite out of her whole discography. But let's get into the second album, The Boy Is Mine. Yeah, this album I feel like, of course, put her on the map for sure, with the song with Brandy. Like, that song is just epic. It's a classic R&B hit. Like, I really love that song to this day. If it comes on, I can't turn. I just gotta listen to that song. So that's definitely one of my favorite songs from this album. But this album was released in 1998, and The Boy Is Mine won a Grammy for the best R&B performance for a duo or group. So I thought that was really cool. That's a big award for a artist with their sophomore album. She also was nominated in 1998 for a Soul Train Music Award for Best R&B Soul Female Singer for the song For You I Will. And I feel like this album had a lot of her staple hit songs, like For You I Will, The Boy Is Mine, Angel of Mine. Those are just classics that you know Monica from those songs. So this album I liked a lot. Those hit songs that I just named were my favorites from this album. The other songs were pretty cool. She had this song called Misty Blue, which really stood out to me because it had this bluesy feel, and I feel like it really showed her versatility as a singer, and in her style it showcased her voice a little bit more, so I kind of like that. Maybe she was influenced by blues singers and maybe that's why she chose that song. I feel like this album really solidified Monica as an artist. You really heard her style and her sound. That first album, it was just a great first album, but this album I feel like really set the tone for like what we continue to get from Monica. It's like, okay, this is Monica, and all of these songs after it, they make sense. They all like are in line with her content, love, heartbreak, some upbeat tunes and dance records and stuff like that. But she really set the tone with herself as an artist, I think, with this album, The Boy Is Mine. There's a ballad on this album that stuck out to me called Inside that I really liked a lot. It gave me Toni Braxton vibes, so I thought that was kind of cool just hearing her do ballads, mid-tempos, and then of course she has her up-tempo songs as well. She kind of gives us a mix of all of that on her albums. So the third album is After the Storm. So After the Storm was released in 2003. To me, this was when I started noticing who Monica was. Of course, I knew her from The Boy Is Mine with Brandy, but beyond that, I didn't really pay much attention to her. So I was more so a gung-ho Brandy fan. Like, I loved Brandy growing up. And when this album came out in 2003, it was around the time that I was like serious about getting albums. And I didn't start collecting albums until like 2000. That's probably like when I got my first album. Released in 2003. The main song from this album that we all know is So Gone Over You. So that song is such a good song. Like, it's so good. And it was nominated for Best R&B Solo Single at the 2003 Lady of Soul Awards. It also got nominated for a Teen Choice Award in 2003 for the Choice Music R&B Hip Hop track. Besides The Boy Is Mine, I think So Gone is her next biggest song. I loved every song on this album from start to finish. Even when I was going through the album, I was just listening through it and I was just like, wow, like I can't skip a song. This was that album for me. I really love this album start to finish. When I would listen to it back in the day, even to when I was going through her albums and reviewing it, I didn't skip anything because it was just so good. Like, every song was so good. My favorites from this album is So Gone, You Should Have Known Better, Don't Gotta Go Home featuring DMX. Might be like one of my favorites of the album besides So Gone, just because I just love the whole sound and his voice and her voice together. It's so dope. And Hurt the Most. I just feel like this album was really amazing, just how it flowed together as an album. It sounded really, really good put together. Her next album, the fourth album, The Makings of Me. This was released in 2006. It was nominated for Best R&B Soul Female Album for the Soul Train Music Awards in 2007. I like this album, but probably my least favorite of the Monica albums. I did really like the song Sideline Ho. I don't know why, it's just catchy and it just stuck out more than the rest of the songs. I really like that one. I do like that the lyrical content was getting more and more vulnerable from her. For example, the song Why Her. She had more upbeat songs on this album, and maybe that's why I didn't like it so much. Maybe. But yeah, The Makings of Me. fourth album. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So Still Standing, this was released in 2010. Everything to Me was nominated for Song of the Year at the 2010 Soul Train Music Awards. She got a Grammy nomination for Best R&B Album and Best Female R&B Vocal Performance in 2011. So this album I like a lot. It's my second favorite album actually of her whole discography. I feel like it flowed very well, and I feel like that's important to me. As an album, I think it should flow and like go into each other. You can tell she was probably in love at the time. It was very empowering, and I love the powerful message behind it. Just very encouraging, so I really appreciate that. Vocally, I felt like she was stronger. She was more mature on this album. She just sounded so much better and smoother. My favorite songs from this album is Still Standing featuring Ludacris. They're cousins, and I just love that whole song together with them. That was dope. Stay or Go, Everything to Go, and Love All Over Me. I think Love All Over Me is probably my top. It's just such a beautiful love song, and it's a ballad. It's just great. You can just belt that out. So Still Standing, really dope album. Next, New Life. This was released in 2012. It was pretty cool album, I thought. My album favorites are It All Belongs to Me featuring Brandy, and Until It's Gone. So this It All Belongs to Me song, I don't think I knew that Brandy and Monica did another song together. I really don't think I knew. I feel like the song sounded familiar, but I was like, wait, they did a whole song together again? Like, I really like their voices together. I think this song was really dope. More mid-tempo songs, which I think is Monica's strong suit. I just feel like those mid-tempo songs are kind of where she fits best, where she sounds best. More modern sounds with the production on this album, more hip-hop elements. She sounded good on some of those upbeat songs. She had a diverse sound with this album, so she had some reggae vibes with the song Man Who Has Everything, and she had a bluesy vibe with Time to Move On, so I kind of appreciated that diversity in this album. So her upbeat song, Daddy's Good Girl, I feel like that was the first upbeat song that I was like, okay, I like you on upbeat. Like, that was a really good song to me for upbeat tempo. Her last album that she did was released in 2015, and it was called Code Red, which opened with her daughter talking, and it was really cute. My favorite song from this is Just Right For Me, featuring Lil Wayne. It has a hip-hop feel. I just really love the beat. She sounds great on it. I feel like her range on this song, Same As So Gone, is right where her sweet spot is in her voice. She's just really great with those higher mixed voice tones. Like, Deep also is one of my favorite songs from this album. So yeah, with this album, I thought the production was more hip-hop, which was cool. The flow was off a little bit for me as an album. She put I Know in between two like upbeat songs, and I just didn't think it flowed really well. I do like the song, but it just didn't sound right flowing with the rest of the album. So overall, my favorite album is After the Storm. I like when Monica sings mid-tempo songs, mostly. Like, I just feel like that's her sweet spot. I noticed that as she progressed in her career, her music choices got higher in range. Maybe she could always sing high, but I just noticed as she went on, she started singing higher and higher. Like her last song, Anchor, from her Code Red, she's singing super high, the highest I've ever heard her sing in any album. And it sounds good, but it's just different. And I think that's cool for her to explore. And I think she released a single recently too, where she's singing kind of high, which is cool to hear her like that. Like, she sounds good like that. Don't really like her on upbeat songs, except that one I mentioned earlier. She can really show off when she does that mid-tempo. Like, she can show off her voice more, I feel. Even the slow ballads, they're cool, but I just like the mid-tempo because she has this urban sound. She has an urban hip-hop drive in all her music. It's just a thread in her music. I love that she raps. Like, she raps on certain songs. You know, she did it on So Gone. She did it on a few other songs throughout her albums where it kind of was like, oh wow, that's dope. It doesn't sound bad. Like, it's cool. It flows. Like, she just has like a really cool vibe, and her artistry shows in different ways. It just shows her diversity that she can rap. I just think that's really cool. Overall, I really like Monica's voice. I love her music. I enjoy listening through her whole discography. She's a great artist, and she sings very, very well, and I enjoyed her performance as well. Like, she's just dope and like humble and like down to earth. And so I'm gonna continue following Monica's journey, keep listening to her music and all of that stuff. I will keep y'all posted on the next video. I'm currently listening to Jhené Aiko's discography. So that might be the next video that I do, just going through all of her songs. Let me know what y'all's favorite album is of Monica. You know, let me know what y'all thought of my take on her songs and everything. If y'all have a favorite song, let me know. I definitely want to hear. And make sure y'all follow me on all social media at I am Skylar Reed. And y'all have a dope rest of your day.
Are we there yet, there yet, there yet, there yet, there yet, there yet?